Hello there everyone, today we're gonna tie this Pikefly. I got it in the vise. We're gonna tie this one, but then in the red hat color scheme. It's pretty small, it's about the size of your hand, smaller even. Small Pikefly, and it's gonna be a real raindrop kind of form when it's in the water. So it will be thicker in the hat and then thin out towards the end. So for this fly we're going to use the Partridge Universal Predator in 40X, which is my favorite hook for tying pike flies. Let's get this one in the vise and check it. So as a thread we use the Vivus GSP thread, just the plain simple standard GSP thread in 150 denier. Before we attach the thread, we're going to put a little zapper gap on the hook shank, so we can get this a very solid base where we can tie on, and to make sure that if you catch 100 pike, it will still be in one piece. So just slip it a bit over the glue, tie a base, secure your thread, take a little wrap and cut off the exit. And it's stuck to my fingers. Then for the back we're going to use some flash in white. Let me get it, just this one, the Hadron White Flashaboo. It's a really awesome color, and it really moves a lot lovely in the water. So we're gonna take about, how much is this? About 10 strands. And we're going to cut that off. And what you want to do when you got your flash like this, is the ends are all in the same length. You take it between your thumb and how you call it in English? The finger you're pointing towards people. You just pull it between those two, and you're gonna just pull out the ends a little bit to taper them. Just like that. And if you see, all my ends are now uneven, and this will make for a very natural kind of look in the water. So if you're fishing it, your fly will not be just chopped off at the end. We're gonna take that bunch. We're gonna take that, put it on the top of the hook at about 40-60. Yeah, about 40-60 it is. Oh. And just take your thread, one loose turn around, apply a little bit of pressure, then another one with some pressure, and just work your way back 4 turns. Then you're gonna take it with your thumb, you're gonna pull it back and just distribute it around the hook shank with your right thumb, and just tie over it so you secure it and it's locked in place. So this will be the bottom part of the fly. Then we're going to use some bucktail in white. And if you look, this is a small portion of a bucktail. We're going to use this end of the bucktail because we want the hairs to stand out to the back to form a tail. So we don't want the ones from, this is a bigger one, we don't want these fibers, because if you tie these on, these will flare up and it will be really big, and we just want a little bit of body in the tail. So we're going to use a back part of it. So let me get my scissors. And then we just select, if you look, we just select a bunch where you think that in the length you want your fly to be. You just take a bunch like this, just check the length a little bit, and then just cut it off. And what you want to do, because you now get all your hairs, you want to take it between your fingers and just slam the ends. And if you do that, you will see that all these shorter fibers will come out. You can just grab it a little bit, twist it a little bit between your fingers, slam it. You can even take out a comb like this, just comb the ends out, so you won't have all the under fur. It will become a little bit of a mess on your desk, but yeah, after every time you tie, you just have to clean up a little bit. So we got our bunch, which is a very nice length. We're just going to take it onto the hook. Change fingers here, and we're just going to take it. We're just going to do one loose turn, and then another loose one. We're just going to let the bobbin hang. Just let it hang free. You're just going to take it. You're going to push it around the hook a little bit, so the bucktail is evenly distributed all around the hook. Then you're going to pull it a little. You will see that it will turn a little bit. You're going to take it up, and under pressure, your thread. And you're just going to tie 2 or 3 turns, and then you're just going to pull it, and then there you go. That's your bucktail bottom, back half. Just gonna secure it a little bit. Yep. Then we're just going to cut off these ends. Just make sure that your thread and your bobbin is just hanging free, so you won't cut your thread. Always cut on the top side of your hook when you're tying, in proportion to the bobbin. So, and to make sure that the fly isn't going to be too buoyant in the water, that it floats too much, we're just going to cut off these ends, and it will also make the fly look a little bit better. Just cut off some ends here, make it look good. And then we're just going to put this back. Just going to tie this off, all this, with some loose wraps up front and back. A little bit of pulling. So there you have it. And then we're just going to take our zapper gap and put a little bit on the place where you tied it in. And this will make sure that you can catch 100 or more pike on one fly. So I'm just going to clean up a little bit, put all the cut off bucktail ends to one side, and then we're going to take our flash again, but we're going to take like 5 strands now. And you're just going to cut it off, and then you take your flash and you lay it on your desk, because we're going to take another flash. Let me get it out of the flash wheel. It's this one. It's the dyed pearl in pearly color, and this one really reflects light in the water, as you can see. And we're just going to take this one, and we're going to take about 5 strands again. We're just going to cut it off. Then you take the pearly flash, this one, and the white flash you've cut before. We're going to put it in one hand, like this. Just gonna make sure it's in one hand, and you can see that they are a little bit tapered, but we want a little bit better taper. But while we're going to taper, we're going to first put it between your fingers like this, and we're going to roll it a little bit, and we're going to clamp it together again, and we're going to roll it so we mix the flash together. So you got this really nice blend of flash. You can actually hold your left fingers on top so it won't go everywhere. And mostly when you do this, the flash kinda tapers itself, which isn't the thing right now, so we're just going to taper it a little bit so it's looking more lively. Now you got a really shiny flash with the really nice white. We're going to tie this on. Let's check if the glue is dry. If the glue isn't dry, you can take like a marabou feather and just rub it over it, so you can take off the excess of glue. Then we're going to put this on top. We're going to transfer it through the left hand. Then we're going to tie one loose wrap and another one. And we're just going to let the bobbin hang. We're going to check if the length we want is good. I want it a little bit longer, so I'm going to pull it back a bit. well, too long now. We're going to take it back. It's about, well, it's about 50-50 right now. We're just going to distribute it around the hook at 180 degrees from this side to that side. And we're doing that so that the flash doesn't tangle up in your hook bend. Then we're going to take our thread, we're going to pull a little bit on it, and then we're going to put some wraps on it with pressure so we secure it. And we take the flash, transfer it to the other half of the fly, and we secure it with another couple of wraps like this. And that's basically your tail part of this fly done. So what I like to do is add another piece of bucktail, but a smaller piece that we just tied on. So we're going to take some less fibers. So about this amount. It's quite hard to see actually, but it isn't really much. It's less than a pencil thick. We're going to cut it off. We're going to get all the under fur out like that, and then we're going to tie it on our fly like this. I'm just going to move a bit forward, and we're going to put it on top. Now we're tying 1-2 wraps over it, pull a little bit, and then just take your thumb and distribute it around the hook. And just take some more wraps. You will see that the hairs are already flaring up. And just brush it out. You can brush it out. You can do it with your hands and your fingers. Just make sure it's all around. Looks really nice all around, like that. Then we're just going to tie these ends down, because we don't really need to cut that little off, because this will be all covered. And then we take the pearl flash, and we take about 10 strands of it. We're going to cut it off, and we're going to tie that on. First, with always, if you're tying with flash, just twist it a little bit so you can get all the fibers, and then just pull them out a little bit so you taper them, so your fly doesn't look like it's chopped off at the end. And if you're satisfied with the taper, just take it in your hand, put it on top of the fly 50-50. Just 1-2 loose wraps, distribute it a little bit, pull 1-2, a hard pull on it, and then just fold them over. Again, distribute them around the hook and then tie them off. And that's basically the back part of this fly. So next we're going to apply a little bit more of Zap-A-Gap to ensure that if a pike will grab this fly, it won't grab all the hairs and fibers and flesh with it. Just gonna move this a little bit for the view, like that. Yeah, we're going to, in the wet glue, going to tie a little bit on, and in 2 really wide turns back. Now we're going to take some polar reflector flash in silver from Hairline, which is this really awesome chenille. It comes in around 5 meters a bag. As you can see, I've used this a lot, but it's this really awesome long hair material which you can use for streamers. And when you're going to tie it on, it actually has a direction which the fibers move, point towards in kind of a natural way. And you're just going to take it on the end, where if you pull it up, if you take the end and you pull like this, that the fibers are pointing up, and this way they're pointing down. So if you're tying, that you can pull it back easier. Then we're just going to tie this in on the side or top of the hook shank, and we're just going to secure it like this. Just some fast wraps over it. Then we're going to move with the thread up to the eye and stop around 3 millimeters before the hook eye. And we're going to go back in some overlapping turns, so we secure our thread. And then we're just 2 turns and then back in overlapping turns. Just secure that. And we're going to take it. We're going to pull the material to the side. We're just going to wrap it around the hook shank like this. Trim the end from a little base, and then you can see that you have a hollow kind of fly, but you do have some body. You got the tail in here, and then we're going to take some lateral scale, which is this really awesome, really reflecting material, also from Hadron. And it's kind of a rippled kind of flash, but it like reflects light in an insane way. So we're going to take 2 strands of that, just 2, and we're going to put them on one by one. So put the other one on your table, and then I want them to be around 70, 30, 60, 40, and just tie them on like the side, so you can make like the flank of the fish. I'm just going to put this one on as well, just a little bit shorter than the other one, so you still have that tapered effect. Yep, and just tie that on. And secure it with some wraps. Pull a little, and then we're going to fold them back and just point them a little bit upwards. Then just tie them off like that. So now you have some lateral scale in it, which will move a load of water. And then we're going to make the hat. Just tidy this up a bit, and the hat will be a predator dubbing from fly dressing in red row. We're going to use that to make the hat, and as always, if you use dubbing, you're going to take it out of the bag. Like this, you're going to take some strands, about fist thickness. You're just going to take it between your fingers, and you're just going to rip and stack, so that all the fibers are facing the same direction. And I'm quite lucky, so these are already almost facing the same direction. And I'm going to take it, put it on top of the fly, and then I'm going to decide how big my hat will be. And I'm just going to tie this one in 50-50. But on the back part of this. Now we should actually add some glue first, before we forget, because these lateral scales will be within some pike teeth. We don't want to lose them, so just some glue, 1, 2, 3 wraps. Take your fingers or a marabou feather and just dry it out a bit, because this will really, this this dubbing will really react to the glue, and it gets stuck in the glue really fast. And just taking a loose wrap around, just take it between your fingers and just pull down with the bobbin, and then another 2 wraps like this, and then that's the first part of that. Then you're just going to twist your vise and just take another bunch of dubbing. And we're just going to rip and stack that again. Like this. And then we're just going to place that on top of our hook. And what I like to do is I go from with my left hand from the bottom, pull everything flat, and just take this and push it on a little bit, so you don't have to push over the point of the hook like that. Just transfer it from your hands. Check with the other part that's already sticking out that your length is the same. Distribute it a little bit and just take a loose turn around this, position it around so it's all around is just red dubbing, and just tie it off. And then we're just going to, you can use a comb, but I just used my hand, so you can use a fancy dubbing brush. We'll use the fancy dubbing brush. We're just going to take out the bottom part and the upper part like this, pulling it back so you can see that it's already taking some shape. You just take your thread and just build up a little bit in front. So you can see we've still got a lot of space here. We're just going to cover that up because this will be a 2-stack head, which means you will just do 1 stack on the bottom, 1 stack, another stack, etc. Just turn the vise a little bit. This looks better. Now we're going to take another clamp of dubbing, slightly more than the previous step. This is quite more actually. I'm just going to rip and stack so everything is aligned nicely. We're just going to take this, pull these back a little, twist my vise, put these on in 70-30, like this. And we're just going to tie that off or on. And just take your thumb and just twist it a little bit like this so that the dubbing will be distributed 180 degrees around the hook. So you won't have, like if you're fishing, that this whole part here is going to be bald. We're not covered with dubbing, and we're going to take the last stack of dubbing, just slightly more than the previous one we did on the bottom, and we're going to rip and stack this again. This is actually really important because if you do not do this, it will just be one ball of messy hair going every direction. You actually want the fibers or the hairs from the dubbing to just align in one direction, so you can, it's easier tying and it looks better. If you are known to like intruders, you can use like a dubbing ball. And in that case, it doesn't really matter which way the fibers of the dubbing are standing because you're making a ball with it. But because we're making a head, it actually does matter. So we're going to take it from the bottom with the left hand. We're just going to stroke or pat our fibers around the hook like this, and pulling it back until we're on that 70-30 mark. It's around here. It's going to look. It's quite a lot of dubbing, actually. And then we're going to take our thread, do a loose turn, and just make sure that our dubbing is on the hook, like that. And then we're going to take another turn to just make sure it's locked a little bit more, so we can take our thumb and just push it around. So it will be 180 degrees, so you will just seeing red dubbing. We're going to take some turns, pull a little, and we're going to actually turn the vise because it works easier. And we're going to pull these all into the two directions, like this. And then now you can choose, and that's your own choice. You can, like with this fly, what I've done is I've moved up with the thread, just bend these two over like this, and then move up with the thread, and then just tie in front of the eye a little bit, and then you get like a really slim kind of profile. But this one I want a little bit more bigger head, so I'm just going to take my thread. I'm just going to make a whip finish with the dubbing still sticking out, and then we're going to push it back and then just put some eyes on it. Just get my dubbing needle. So if you've done your knot, just lost the word, you just take your Zap Gap and apply a little bit of glue, super glue, Zap Gap or any other super glue with a brush will do. Just take your thread right here, just put some glue on the thread, like so. It's just spread out a little bit of glue on like a centimeter of your thread, and just with the wet glue just tie in into the bunch, and just when you're on the end like this, just snap it off or just cut it. Just wait a couple seconds for it to dry a little bit, and then you can actually start taking a brush or a comb, or like if you go to the pet store you can find these brushes. These have like small metal like wires that you use to pet your cat and get all of the fur out. And just we're going to take it a little bit and just pull it over the sides, and then you can really see that it pops out the head, and you can see you always have some leftover fibers which you can just pull out, and you got these little spare leftovers of dubbing. And just don't throw these away, because you can use these for like nymphs or dry flies or parachute flies or whatever. You can use these remains. And then we're going to just stroke this down a bit, take our comb again, just pull a bit like this, and on the other side, bottom, just so you get like it's in two ways, and just comb it into shape like this. Just take from the sides is easier because you're working with a hook like that. So you have to just take your hands and just push it back a little bit, and there you have your general shape of your fly. And again, this will be with some leftovers. Just take these out and put them on the side, because you will use these again. I usually just push them back into the bag with where it came from. Then for our final step, I need some ice for that. I'm just gonna grab them. We're going to glue some eyes on, and we can use some UV eyes. These are from Smart Lures. We can use some eyes like these with some really nice drop formed pupils, also from Smart Lures. Actually all my eyes are from Smart Lures, but you can also use just like regular eyes like these. It's all up to your choice, but for today we're going to use a UV eye. And you can do this with epoxy, you can do this with UV glue, but if you're tying this and you want to like use this fly and catch like 1,000, or yeah, 1,000 is a little bit too much, but a lot of pike, you want to do this with epoxy. And because epoxy needs to dry like for 5 minutes, and you just 2 components, you mix them 50-50, you mix them in the same amount, and then it gets then the activator substance in the epoxy will harden this out. You'll actually have 5 minutes to work with it before it really is like, the epoxy gets really hard, and I have never had, and I've even tried with like a really sharp knife to get these eyes out, and if you use epoxy, these won't come out. But the thing with epoxy is you will get a narrower pattern of your head. And I got this really bulky head that I want to keep bulky this time. So I'm just going to take my Zappa Gap, and I'm going to take 2 eyes if they want to come out. And I'm just going to, what I always do is I take the eyes, just take them off, and put them on the palm of my hand like this. So I always have my eyes ready when I need them, and they're not going to like stick themselves on your desk like that. So we're just going to turn the vise, just stroke this a little bit up, down. Then we're going to take one of the eyes, we'll take our Zappa Gap, and then we're going to take our eye. We're just going to apply some Zappa Gap on the back of the eye, like that. So it's quite hard to see, but just apply a little bit of Zappa Gap. And then just place it on the dubbing. Just push a little bit like that. And especially when you're fishing for like perch and you use like this way, the eyes won't come off really quick. But if you want a really bulky head, just take your Zappa Gap and glue them on. I'm going to do that for the same for the other side. Just take your Zappa Gap, glue the shit out of the back of the eye, and then just make sure you don't trip your bottle, and just place it onto your fly and just pull it, push it, not pull it, just push it into the dubbing with quite some force actually, and then there you go. Now we still have that big bulky head, but we also got some really nice big UV eyes. And if you like turn off the lights like here and just take like UV, you will see that this fly, all the white stuff is like UV and fluorescent, and if you go to the eye, it's really a trigger point. So it will really, like as it says, trigger the pike. So you will see that the eye will flare up a lot, and then there's the back as well, and the dubbing not. So you got this really big spot on the front that says "Come and get me." So there you have it. A pretty simple small pikefly with a really big head. We're just taking it out of the vise. If you look, you get like a really big head. If you compare it to the one I've did with the epoxy, so this is the epoxy one, this is the bulk with the Zappa Gap. This one will just move a lot of water, and this one will just jerk like that in the water, and just you're going to catch pike on this one. So there you go. See you guys later.